Okay, one more report for you, which we talked a little bit about already, the master plan update, right? So Julia's just going to give you a few slides on that. I think we are. There we go.
And I have asked Dorothy McCarty of Cotter to review with you some of the updates. She's going to go through some of the big projects and then give you kind of a punch list of some of the other projects that are either going to come online or that are on hold right now.
Okay, just a few updates. The science building, Mike already gave you pretty much the update on this, so you're aware of the situation with the science building. It is a capital development board project. And we are responsible for coordinating how it affects the other master plan projects. I will say even that has been, continues to be a challenge with this particular project and this contractor. But they did, I understand from Mike, that this contractor did submit what they call their accelerated schedule to project their completion August 1st, and the Capital Development Board, from our own observation, they have been exerting every pressure that they can to improve the performance of this contractor on this project. The cafe addition in core remodeling is it's on schedule, and there's a tour proposed for the next month's board meeting, so you'll be able to walk through and see how it's coming along. So you see up in the upper left, there's the outside of the cafeteria addition. What you're seeing on the right there is the inside of the cafeteria addition. Unfortunately, where there are, those are windows in real life, but right now they're boarded up. But that will give at least a sense of how much window and view space you'll have from the inside of the cafe. And then this is how open the core area is going to be when the construction is completed. The A and B remodeling is being done in 2 phases. This is the phase we're in right now. So if you've had the pleasure to walk through parts of the B building, that this path that you can see there, that's how you get through the B building now. You can certainly see evidence that the construction is underway. This area is in the B building. It is essentially gutted now. And this phase will be going on between now and July. The next phase, which is the east part of the B wing, will go from July to December, and then we're going to be doing the A wing all in one final phase, and that will go from January to October. South Lake Chemistry Lab is under construction. This is, of course, the rendering, and this is the, how the outside of it is looking. And I apologize if this isn't a great picture, but I wanted to give you a sense of how it's looking. But there's a big masonry mixer right here, and then Boulder's trailer is right there. So I tried to capture a little bit of what the outside of it is looking like compared to the rendering that you see above there. So that is coming along. The casework was supposed to be delivered this week, but it's coming from the East Coast. Yeah, so it's been delayed, but it should not affect the overall schedule. The board is going to have a walk through there at your March board meeting.
What?
And the other master plan projects that are coming up, or our current kind of bullet points on some of the master plan projects, the geothermal field, as you know from previous updates, that the field is done, the distribution is done. They are installing the geothermal pumps in the basement right now of the new cafeteria. Monument signage, we're waiting for submittals from them, but that is going to start installation at spring break. Parking lot 7 reconstruction is, the engineering documents have been completed and reviewed. We're hoping to go out for bids at the end of February. This is, just to give you the heads up, this is pending the science building schedule because they need to turn the site over to us in order for us to rebuild that parking lot. Then the CLC lab renovations, this is an interior renovation job that's still out in the future a little bit, but that also is dependent on the science building schedule because these folks have to move out into the science building in order for us to do the renovation. Parking lots 2 and 3, those are scheduled to be done this summer of 2017. Library renovations, again, that's getting out in the future, as are the E-building renovations. After we're done using the E-building for all of this swing space, moving people around from pillar to post here to get the construction done. So that's it for my construction update. Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, here you go.
Okay, well, thank you for the reports, and that's the end of the report of the president.
Well, one question to that. And I guess, Julia, this would come to you. I'm still uncomfortable about that $2.1 million. And would you provide us with a little bit more explanation of what that money's supposed to be spent? And I look at weatherization from this frame of mind. When we worked with people that built million-square-foot high-rise buildings in the city, when we talk about weatherization, we had to make sure the electrical infrastructure was in that building so it did not damage the internal parts of the building. I don't know if that's the case here, because you had to get heat in those buildings. So can you just help me a little bit with what did we provide the $2.1 million to actually do? And are we on target with that or not?
Sure. So,
You don't have to do it tonight, okay?
okay.
All right.
Well,
You wanna do?
yeah,
Okay,
go
okay.
ahead.
I mean, I can give you a little bit of an explanation. So what we did is we looked at the forecast as far as progress payments with the contractor. We were projecting to spend about $8 million at the end of December. We ended up spending about $6 million. So, you know, with that, there wasn't a lot of crews that were on site, so there wasn't a lot of spending that was being done on there. So what we were projecting is, you know, come March, that we were potentially going to run out of money, and we didn't know if the state would have any of the money available. So because there haven't been as many crews that have been out there, that money is now getting pushed a little bit further, so we do have a little bit more time to play. But the goal was to basically get it weatherized by, you know, a certain date with the 2.2 additional $1 million.
Your money is, you know, our portion of the funding for the building is stretching farther than it should because they're being delayed. So it has, because of the budget, you know, gridlock, it actually has a good aspect to it, but obviously the delay is not good.
Right.
And of course, it is accountability, but the other question is, will it do damage to the structure and internal things in that building?
No, and that's really the additional, what the additional money was for, is to get the infrastructure in there to basically protect our assets. The thought was nothing would happen on the interior, no interior walls or things like that, but basically just enough to potentially save the building.
So wait, so the building's all under roof?
No,
No.
it's not under,
Not exposed,
it's not under roof, there's no walls up either. The
Well,
only thing that's
they
there
put
is a
up
steel
like
frame.
tarp or something.
Right.
They put tarp up.
Yeah, the goal is to basically, by the end of February, we would have all the exterior skin on it and a roof on it, and then eventually windows would be installed as well.
So it looked like the cafeteria does already.
Basically, it was almost on the exact same schedule as the cafeteria.
Alrighty.
Now, can I just ask this? When we see that, or with capital development board sees that they're not making payouts because there's not enough crews out there, doesn't that set off alarm bells to the CDB and say, get more crews out there?
It does. You know, we've had kind of some progress reports with the CDB. We were projecting them to spend at least $1 million a month. They've been spending about $700,000 a month. So in order to catch up to this, they're needing to spend about $2 million a month to catch up with it. So we've kind of made that clear to them, talking about, you know, weekend work, Saturdays, you know, overtime and things like that. So multiple crews, so they are aware of it.
Thank you.
And that was part of their report, that their acceleration report, that they had to
Correct.
provide that
Yeah,
level
and-
of detail.
And they're not allowed to bid on any other projects until they get this one under control. So
They
can't
should,
take
they
on
should
that
have
one
enough
and-
crew since they can't do new projects, so we'll see.
Yeah, so right now they are under a suspension from the state that they cannot bid on any additional work. In order for them to lift that suspension, they have to meet our milestones for this project. So they do have an incentive to basically lift that suspension from the state. So we're going to set up, monthly progress with milestones, and if they don't hit them, they're going to continue to be on suspension from the state of Illinois.
And a lot of other municipalities and public sector
Won't bid
projects
either.
won't
They
bid,
won't touch
won't
it.
allow them to bid if
Yeah.
they're not CDB approved also. So that's a big stick. It's a very big stick, and CDB is using it.
Yeah, and I agree with it. It's a big stick, but whether they're gonna make it or not is a different question, which just means that's our problem.
So the contractor's name is what, for the record?
It's Path Construction
Path
from
Construction.
Arlington Heights.
Path Construction of Palatine?
Arlington Heights.
Arlington
Heights.
We keep using the word "they." I think we should, for the record,
Yeah.
state who they are
Path
or
Construction.
is.
Yeah.
They are is. So thank you. They are is.
All right.
Okay, well, I think you understand, it's on our minds.
Yeah, it's done our money every day.
And it's our taxpayers' dollars.
That's right.
I understand the qualification about they're not gonna be able to bid on other jobs. That's a concern and a motivation, I agree, but that's not our taxpayer dollars.
So can I ask another question?
Sure.
See, I'm not an engineer, architect, construction person at all. So now that it's not under roof. So we just have some kind of out
Frames, steel frames.
frames, and then I don't know what kind of floors like are in there.
The concrete?
Are they concrete in there? So I mean, we have had some typical winter weather around here and are going to continue to have that. So is any of that vulnerable to the elements
That's what I
that
mean.
could have
The weather's
long-term effects? I mean, because I didn't really know the status. I mean, I didn't know if it was under roof and closed up, and so maybe that would have been safer. But this is like, what are the floors like in there? Are they, with expansion and contraction and everything? I mean, do we have to worry about like the long-term
Right,
life
that's what
of
I'm
this
talking about.
building because of what's going on here?
Yeah, there is, it is exposed, it's a concrete deck, or it's a metal deck with a concrete pour that's in there, so it is a concrete slab. With the winter conditions, there are some things we are watching for as, putting salt and other items, on the actual concrete that could, potentially ruin it or rust it. We do have an architect that does weekly inspections, actually daily inspections now. We've ramped that up, just to keep another eyes, in the field that's out there. So they are also protecting, everything that they see as well.
So in short, we're doing everything we can. Not a great situation, but we're doing everything.
All there's there is a piece of plastic covered. That's it.
So they should be responsible if there's damage.
Well, I don't know what our
Who will be?
contract says,
Or our
but will the
bonds.
concrete buckle up under the conditions that we've been exposed to?
No, it is protected. They do have some tarps and stuff up there.
Is there any heat up there?
There is no heat. There's temporary heat in one of the areas, but it's not full heat yet.
So then you're gonna have the expansion, contraction, so does that, I don't know, how does concrete respond to that? I mean, is it, and how do you know, like, not necessarily what we're seeing today in January, but is it gonna affect, like, the longevity of
No, I
that?
mean, there will be, we will have it enclosed and we will be able to monitor it as well. We have noticed some sections of concrete that has failed. We've asked them to remove it and, pour new concrete in, so they are willing to do that. So they do know that there's eyes that are watching them, and, we're not gonna accept any work that's, defaulting.
So does that change your order on their expense?
It's all on their deck.
It
Yeah,
should
they're gonna
be.
end up losing some money over this one. They already are, because they can't bid on new projects.
Yeah, but what if they fail?
Well, that's. the
Well,
problem.
that,
What does our contract say?
we'll do, look, I went through a building in the Kankakee where the builder went bankrupt in the middle of the process. If you want to talk about a building failure, and it elongated the process and et cetera. But when we got it done, it's fine. You just have to do certain remediation. You got to fix some things. You had to take care of the weather damage that was done. And we'll monitor this all along, and we'll do the best we can. If it becomes a difficult situation, we'll let you know. If PATH, for instance, isn't doing what we're requiring to do.
And right now, there's a 1-year warranty after completion. I mean, it's a typical, contract. So once it is complete, we do have a 1-year warranty where we can go back to the contractor, Path Construction, and identify any issues or problems that we do have.
unless they're bankrupt.
Assuming we find it in 1
Yeah,
year.
right.
There is a building.
We don't even, we didn't want to go there. In a
Right.
while since they've done the
Yeah.
construction, the
Yeah.
long-term effects usually are much more than a year.
Right, absolutely.
Well, sure, we'll not.
And we're the ones responsible for those dollars. Okay, when it's all said and done, it's not PATH, it's us that are responsible for those dollars.
But in the end of the day, what else can we do right now?
We have to, well, to me, hopefully we've written a contract sufficient enough that we're going to be covered for those not only more than a year, but more longer than a year. I don't know what that contract
Let's keep in mind always, it's the state's building, it's a CDB project. So we can do what we're doing now. We can add on these inspections, we can say things to the CDB. It's their project, even though we have to live with it long term. But we will do everything that we can within our powers, and we're doing that already. And if something, gets to a certain point where there's some long-term damage and they're not attending to it, we'll let you know.
Good.
All right?
Seems like they're breaching the contract already.
Yeah.